Ladies and gentlemen, for the sixth time in franchise history, the New England Patriots are world champions. Hello, everybody. Welcome here to NFL GameDay Prime, presented by Mercedes-Benz. Brett Lewis, Super Bowl champ Will Blackman, Super Bowl champion GM Charlie Casserly, Tom Brady, now the proud owner of more Super Bowl rings than any other player in NFL history. Give him one for the other hand now. A 13-3 Patriots victory makes them the champions in Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta. Tom, 21-35, 262, no touchdowns, didn't have an interception. Sony Michel, the rookie out of Georgia, first-round draft pick of the New England Patriots this year, accounting for the only touchdown of the ball game, 94 yards. Julian Edelman, though, my favorite maybe for the MVP, 10 catches, 141. He was the biggest source of offense in the pass game for the Patriots on this day. Charlie, your first thought here of the Patriots Super Bowl champions for a sixth time?
You know, we were fortunate in Washington. We won 3.
That was amazing in itself, right?
They won 3 more.
Yeah. They are now tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the most Super Bowl wins all time in NFL history, both franchises with 6, Will.
Yeah, I mean, I was just happy to get to my 1.
Yeah.
Let alone, what was it, they went to 9 and won 6?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. 6. My God.
And remember now, our championships came before free agency.
Right.
The Steelers 4 with Noel before free agency. Now you're talking about, yes, you got Brady, and you've had him for the whole run, but the rest of the team keeps moving. That's the amazing thing. You know, there have been some other great quarterbacks during this period. You know, Roethlisberger ain't all bad.
Right. Sure.
The guy up in Green Bay ain't all bad. Peyton Manning ain't bad.
Eli Manning.
But to be able to adjust this team from year to year and adapt it the way Belichick has done, that's probably the greatest accomplishment that we've seen here in modern times.
Well, and the two mainstays in those 6 championships, Belichick and Brady, now 2 more Super Bowl wins than any other head coach and quarterback combo. Chuck Noll, Terry Bradshaw, as you mentioned there, with the Steelers 4, are second. Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, third with 3. So, you know, at 41 years old, well, we've got a Super Bowl champion quarterback in Tom Brady. You know, if we look at this game, it was an odd game, right? It was the lowest scoring, second lowest scoring first half, the lowest scoring game through 3 quarters. At that point, just a couple of field goals on the board. It just, no team was ever ready to really run away with it. And then we finally got our touchdown in the fourth quarter. On the first snap of either team in the red zone was that Sony Michel run.
Well, we talked about offense so much this postseason. We've seen a lot of offensive talent. Everyone was in love with what Patrick Mahomes was doing offensively. We talked about McVay, his mind. But this was definitely a well-executed game plan defensively on both sides of the ball. And that's exactly that's what entertaining about it. It wasn't boring at all. It was great execution on both sides. And what a way for coordinator Brian Flores to
go out. Sure.
To go out, right? You know,
definitely. And he calls the defenses.
He does. I know. Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you. Let him know that he calls the plays.
And he installs. Obviously, Bill Belichick he
oversees the whole
thing. No question about that. If Bill walks in the room, hey, Brian, run this coverage.
We're going to run that coverage.
Brian's going to say, yes, sir, I will. but the bottom line is Brian calls the game. Yeah. And he not only that, like I said, he installs it. So, hey, goes out with a Super Bowl, and now he goes to Miami.
With a job tomorrow, right?
That's right. Pretty good deal.
No question. So, Charlie, were you surprised at the way the Patriots were able to get pressure on Jared Goff and to force him into some bad throws? 19-38 for 229.
Against the offensive line of the year.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Well, their offensive line of the year. You know, well, maybe we want to recount that vote now fast, okay? Again, they did. They played well. But the Patriots have a good offensive line, too. You know, think about that. So what happened was you start with Gurley. If you stop Gurley, you take away the bootleg and you take away the play action, and their offensive line overall is not like terrifically athletic or big on the inside. So they're vulnerable. What the Patriots did a great job in the playoffs was blitzing. They did a great job.
No question.
They don't have any real good pass rushers except Flowers. But Highsmith, Van Noy, and Chung, are all good blitzers. So they get the pass rush that way. And again, that goes back to Flores and Belichick making the proper calls.
It's been such an impressive run since 2001 for the Patriots, winning Super Bowl 36 against the Rams, and now some interesting symmetry, getting their 6th here also against
you know when you think about this here, every one of them, and they show the graphic, 8 points or less. Okay, so they blew them out with 10 this time. But when you think about that, you know that's coaching, poise, conditioning, in the fourth quarter. They win all these games in the fourth quarter. If you take this game, if you just go to the second half and the fourth quarter, Sony Michel, we said at halftime, give him the ball.
Yep.
Okay? Well, obviously, Belichick was watching us, and so he made that adjustment. He really needed our advice, right? But Michel, 12 carries, 72 yards. That's a 6.0 average in the second half.
That's a game worth of stats right there.
Sure it is. Gronkowski, they found different ways to get him the ball on that key drive. The first one, they isolated with the linebacker. They threw it deep. So he makes 2 big plays. We talked about White at halftime. They got him involved in. Exactly. So there was a point in that second half where it all came together. It never came together for the Rams in this game.
How about that last drive? Everyone in the building, everyone watching at home knew the Patriots are going to be running the ball, and they gashed them, Will.
Absolutely.
They gashed that Rams defense.
Yeah, they went old school. They went 1991, 1995, 22 personnel. I formation with the tight end offset. They just ran right at him, and you have to stop, especially today, nowadays in football. It's funny, I know someone who's close to Saquon Barkley, and Saquon learned, he was like, these guys nowadays don't want to hit me. They don't want to hit. So Patriots were smart enough, like, okay, in today's game, let's be physical. Let's totally just blow through these guys, and it worked.
Well, kind of interesting along those same lines, Jalen Ramsey watching this game with all of you at home and said, would never have guessed the GOAT would win a Super Bowl without throwing a touchdown.
That's a good tweet right there.
Because they were able to run it, especially in the second half. Sony Michel gets... Actually, you know what? We should give a lot of credit to Rob Gronkowski. Maybe he had the biggest catch of the game. Tough one down inside the 5-yard line, right, that gets the Patriots into the red zone for the first time. And that happens with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And then Sony Michel on the very next play punches it in. But, I mean, Sony Michel's biggest runs outside of that TD came on that last drive, Charlie.
No, it really did. And again, you got to look at you wanted to get at the linebackers of the Rams. They're undersized. They're smaller guys. They were able to do that at the end of the game. Now, how much did the time of possession weigh on that Ram defense that in their fourth quarter could not make the plays on the pressure on Brady or stop the run like they did early in the game? So time of possession is like a boxer hitting to the body, and in that last couple of rounds, the head dies.
Look at that boxing analogy. That's good.
I love it.
There.
I almost said 15 rounds.
15
but nobody remembered 15 rounds.
Joe Louis.
15 rounds in my era.
Patriots had the ball for just over 33 minutes in this game. And let's actually get you to the Gurley-Anderson comparison here for the Rams, because this was a lot, and this dominated a lot of the headlines and the conversation about the Rams leading up to the Super Bowl. Would this be a bounce-back game for Todd Gurley? How would the backfield share work out? Well, Todd Gurley ended up with about 40 snaps in this game. C.J. Anderson a little bit less than that with about 20. Yeah, half as many. But neither one of these guys were extremely effective in this game. Just 35 yards on the ground for Gurley on 10 carries. That's obviously below a 4 yards per carry average there. And then C.J. Anderson had a couple of receptions, 2 catches for 12 yards, which probably were his most impactful plays. But credit the Patriots in their game plan for being able to stop the run and being able to force Jared Goff into a bunch of untimely and inaccurate throws.
And I think that was the important thing. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, the Patriots are really good at taking away what you do very well and make Jared Goff beat us. Yeah. And I believe they felt very comfortable, like, okay, if we put it in Goff's hands, we're not afraid of him. There's nothing really dangerous that we have to worry about in the case with him.
Well, let's go back to that interception, too, because the Rams were driving. This was their best drive at the time. It had some big plays, and then they kind of went to the well twice on that drive with Cooks, once incomplete and then once ended up being the interception.
Well, the pressure. They got pressure on the last one, Goff threw it up there, and it got intercepted.
Yeah.
And, pressure was his weakness. Right. It showed up in the first half. It showed up during the game.
They clearly studied the Bears game, because that's what you saw a lot of that.
Well, you did.
Playing the Bears.
Yeah. And the thing that, if you looked at 2 quarterbacks, keeping it simple, Brady had not turned the ball over through most of the season, whereas Goff had turned the ball over. That was a big difference between the 2 quarterbacks. You saw it versus pressure here. Brady found his rhythm in the fourth quarter of this football game.
Yeah.
Goff never really got his rhythm. That was one interesting thing. Where the Rams made plays was on Jones and McCourty at corner. They did it twice, a total of, I think, 4 throws in the second half. To me, once you find a weakness,
stay with it.
Stay with it. And they didn't stay with it enough there. Now, again, we can't see from television the coverages and things like that. But I want to get into one thing on the Patriots.
Sure.
We talk about taking away what a team does best. All right. Well, they're not the only team that understands how to do that.
Right.
But the one thing about them is you can write down what you have to do to win the game, and they execute it.
period.
The two things that hit me with them is when you watch them historically is they get better as the season goes on. So why do they get better as the season goes on? One of the things that they do is they figure out what a player does well and then concentrate on that as the season goes on. There's no better fundamental team. When you watch their technique sound, their corners, they get better as the season goes on. Their players get better. That's fundamental. So it's fundamentals and the ability to adjust to what players do and concentrate on that. So when you go into a game and you say you got to take away Gurley, all right, how do you take away Gurley? You set the edge and you discipline the gaps. Yeah. They set the edge and discipline the gaps. Well, every other team has the same plan. These guys, and week in and week out, they change the plan, but they execute the plan. That's brilliant coaching. And they've done it with how many coaches? You know, Brian Flores did a great job.
Right.
But Patricia was before him.
Right.
Yeah.
And another guy before him.
And they have